Long before the vessel was carried into battle, before warriors whispered its name like a curse against pain, it was made for a queen who had survived too much. Her kingdom had once stood bright beneath the northern stars, a crown of stone halls and silver towers set against mountains that never fully released their snow. But betrayal came from within. Her council sold secrets to her enemies. Her banners burned in the wind. Her children were buried before spring, and the throne room where songs had once risen became a chamber of ash and silence. By the final winter of her reign, the queen no longer wept. Grief had become too soft a word for what lived inside her. She summoned the royal glassmakers, oathbinders, and frost alchemists, and commanded them to craft a flask that would never again know warmth. They gathered snow from a battlefield at dawn, tears shed over the unburied dead, and the last breath of an oathkeeper who died with vengeance frozen on his lips. Into deep blue crystal they sealed these remnants. Around it they set pale silver ribs, etched with curling lines like frozen veins. The vessel did not shine like treasure. It gleamed like moonlight trapped beneath ice. They called it the Winterspite Vessel, but the queen never drank from it. When her tomb was sealed beneath the mountain, the flask was placed beside her throne of burial stone, untouched, waiting in the cold dark for centuries. Ages passed. Kingdoms rose over her ruins and vanished in turn. Her name became a fragment in old war songs, then a warning, then nothing at all. Only the mountain remembered. When grave robbers finally broke into the queen's tomb, they expected gold, weapons, and royal bones. Instead, they found a chamber rimed with frost, though no wind entered and no snow had fallen inside for centuries. At the center of the tomb rested the vessel. One thief reached for it and screamed. The glass burned his palm with cold. Inside the flask, a pale blue liquid shifted slowly, like moonlight disturbed beneath frozen water. When the stopper was drawn, the air changed at once. Rage became silence. Pain became distance. Every heartbeat sounded farther away than the last. The thieves fled with the vessel, but not all of them left the mountain alive. Those who survived carried with them a terrible discovery. The flask did not heal wounds. It taught the body how to endure them. The vessel next appeared in the hands of a mountain warden whose fortress stood against 3 winter wars. She was not the strongest defender of her people. She was not the swiftest blade, nor the most beloved commander. But when the gates cracked, when arrows darkened the sky, and when the stones of the keep bled red beneath the frost, she remained standing after others had fallen. Her soldiers believed she had buried her fear beneath the ice. The truth was worse. She had learned to bury everything there. Before every siege, she raised the Winterspite Vessel and drank. The liquid sharpened her breath and slowed her blood. Pain still reached her, but never whole. It arrived dulled and distant, as though every blow had first passed through a wall of winter before finding flesh. Cuts opened, bones cracked. Bruises spread beneath armor, yet the violence lost its heat. It thinned inside her, numbed, froze, and locked itself into stillness. The warden did not become invincible. She became difficult to break. The warriors who followed her soon begged for the draft. They had seen arrows glance from frost-hardened skin. They had seen blades bite shallow where they should have carved deep. They had seen their warden walk through pain, as though every wound had already frozen before it could reach her heart. So the flask passed from hand to hand. Those who drank from it felt no glorious surge of strength. There was no holy fire, no heroic warmth, no sudden rush of courage. Instead, the body grew quiet. Breath steamed, blood slowed, fear became distant. Rage did not vanish, it crystallized. Pain became bearable. Hatred became patient. The vessel taught a cruel lesson. Suffering could be made useful if it was stripped of panic, cooled beyond fury, and preserved without mercy. A wound that should have ended A soldier became a weight they could carry. A blow that should have shattered resolve became frost spreading through a lake. And with every injury endured, something cold answered from within. In time, the Winterspite Vessel was taken north, farther than roads were meant to reach, to a stronghold built into a wall of blue-black ice. The soldiers of that fortress were remembered not for mercy, nor even for courage, but for the strange calm with which they entered slaughter. They did not scream when struck. They did not stagger when bones broke. They advanced through steel, fire, and stone, as though the body had become winter's domain. At the fortress center stood a sealed chamber of silver ribs and frost glass. There the vessel rested between battles, guarded by commanders who believed it was not merely a relic, but a doctrine. To endure was to rule. To feel less was to fear less. To freeze hatred before it could burn out was to make it eternal. Under their command, the flask became more than protection. It became ritual. Before every campaign, chosen warriors drank from it and marched into war with frost in their veins. Their enemies learned to fear the silence of them. Yet the Winterspite Vessel always took something in return. Each swallow drew warmth from memory. Faces blurred first, then voices, then laughter. The memory of hands held beside fires, of children calling from doorways, of summer rain on stone. All of it grew faint, smaller, farther away. Mercy came later. Pity came with effort. Love became something remembered, but no longer felt. Those who relied on the vessel too often found themselves protected not only from injury, but from tenderness. They no longer fought to defend what waited behind them. They fought because cold had become the only language left inside them. The old keepers warned that the vessel did not simply shield a soul from hatred. It preserved hatred perfectly, without smoke, without flame, without decay. The fortress did not fall to an army. It fell to the thing it worshipped. Its commanders became distant and severe, their faces as still as carved ice. They could speak, command, and kill, but each order came with less humanity than the last. Compassion vanished first, then fear, then warmth. The soldiers endured every battle, but forgot why endurance mattered. They survived wounds that should have slain them, yet lost the reasons they had once wished to live. At last, after a campaign no song would honor, the final lord of the keep returned to his throne and drank too deeply from the vessel. When his enemies broke through the gates, they found him seated in silence, untouched by blade, preserved within a shell of frozen armor. Around him lay the fallen, their flesh burned white with cold. No one could say whether he had won. No one could say whether he had died. The flask rested at his feet, still half full, still gleaming softly in the dark. Centuries later, the Winterspite Vessel passed to the last warden who dared to carry it. Some claimed she was descended from the snowbound gate. Others believed she had found the flask among the ruins of the ice fortress and taken it only because no one else had the will to refuse it. She bore it through one final war, standing where armies broke and banners disappeared beneath blizzards of ash. With each drink, she endured more than any mortal body should have survived. Spears failed to stop her, fire failed to turn her back, even grief lost its edge against the frost gathering around her heart. But she understood the price. She felt her memories dimming. She felt mercy becoming heavy. She felt herself changing from a defender into something colder than victory. Where the last battle ended, she vanished into a white pass alone. Some say she held back an army until the snow buried her standing upright. Others claim she reached the frozen sea and cast the flask into the black water before her own heart became crystal. No body was ever found. No grave was ever marked. Only the vessel returned. The Winterspite Vessel has never remained lost for long. It appears where suffering has become unbearable, in the hands of broken soldiers, in the packs of exiled kings, beneath the cloaks of assassins too wounded to stop. Always cold to the touch, always beautiful as moonlit ice, always heavy with the same promise: drink and pain will not own you. Drink and hatred will not consume you. Drink, and what should destroy you will become something you can carry. But the wise fear it, not because it contains poison, not because it kills quickly. They fear it because it allows a person to survive what should have changed them, and return colder than the storm that tried to end them. There are wounds that bleed, there are wounds that scar, and there are wounds that turn to winter and never thaw again.